There is another, Mike, plan that would be Lamar. And if Rodgers says no, Lamar's still sitting there. And if Rodgers says yes, then obviously Lamar would lose one more team off the table that would not be, willing to just go for it with him. What is your take on everything going on with him and the time frame that he's got in front of him, Mike?
Well, first of all, I don't know that Lamar would be viewed as anything other than the Jets settling at this point, given all this emphasis on Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah,
and again, I don't know how the fan base would feel if that's what happens. But with Lamar, and it keeps coming back to the fact that he doesn't have an agent. He's never had an agent. He needs an agent now more than ever. Based upon the people that I've talked to, there's a strong belief he'll never hire an agent because that will be perceived as admitting he was wrong to not have an agent in the first place. And we know how that stubbornness can creep into our lives and cause us to do dumb things. We double down on a mistake instead of admitting it and rectifying it. He needs an agent now to be working the market, working the back channels, trying to get people interested, trying to get a team just as a favor. Pretend you're interested. Do me a favor here. Let me leak to somebody that you're interested. Let me just get something that I can use as the ripcord on the lawnmower to get this market started for my guy. That's what happens when you have a really good agent, and that's what he needs. Because, Rich, without it, he's available now, well, as of Monday, to talk to anyone. How's that going to play out, especially when we've seen multiple teams preemptively slam the door in his face before he's even on the porch because they don't want to get to the point where he says, I want a 5-year fully guaranteed contract. So he's the one that's going to have to go out and initiate contact. He's the one that's going to have to figure out what to do, or just sit back and wait and see if anyone shows up. I'm still fascinated by the possibility of the Commanders making a play for Lamar Jackson, but right now, there's no sense that anybody is ready to swoop in, put an offer on the table that he'll accept. At some point, he's got to do a deal with someone. At some point in his life, presumably, he will do a long-term contract with someone. The time is now. But, again, it will be easier to get to that point if he has an agent. So this is a big mess. And, Rich, we're closer than I think people realize to the possibility of him not playing at all in 2023, because if he doesn't sign a long-term deal and the Ravens don't sign him to a long-term deal, and we get to July 16, and all he can do is a one-year deal, and he says to the Ravens, I'm not playing for $32.4 million, ball's in their court at that point. Do they offer him more? They call his bluff, and does he sit out 2023 because he refuses to play for $32.4?
I can't imagine that, Mike. But you're also the perfect person to ask that, because when the word collusion gets thrown around, you're the one with the least fear of using it and sussing it out and pointing it out. You're hearing all this stuff, but you also just laid out all the reasons why there might not be a market for him. Do you think there is some sort of collusion going on here?
Rich, I think the collusion happened last year. The seeds were planted then, and the flowers are starting to pop up now. When Deshaun Watson gets the 5-year fully guaranteed contract from the Browns, who were desperate, and it was a great job by Athletes First and David Mulugheta to create a market for Deshaun Watson when he had 20-plus civil lawsuits pending, had the Saints, Panthers, Falcons, and Browns all at the table, threw the Browns aside at the perfect moment. They had pissed off Baker Mayfield, so back come the Browns with a 5-year fully guaranteed deal. But the reactions to that at the league meetings last year, on the record comments from guys like Ravens owner Steve Bisciotti, Falcons owner Arthur Blank, and people ask me, well, how does collusion happen in the NFL? Here's what happens. You got 32 different businesses that are supposed to be competing on everything. There was a case in the U.S. Supreme Court in 2010 that made it clear that the NFL is 32 independent businesses. It is not one business tied together with 32 branches. It's 32 independent businesses. So when they get together 4 times a year, Rich, it's like the CEOs of McDonald's, Burger King, Taco Bell, Subway, Arby's, Kentucky Fried Chicken, Long John Silver's all getting together at a resort somewhere and comparing notes on how they're going to do business and how they're going to pay employees. And that's a blatant antitrust violation. The law prohibits that. So to the extent that some of the harumphing that was going on last year among the billionaires about what Jimmy Haslam did with the Browns' Deshaun Watson contract, to the extent that happened and to the extent that stuck, that's what's causing teams now to generally say we just don't, and they're not going to come out and say it. See, you don't have to come out and say it if you never even talk to him. I think that's what's going on. If you never engage him, you never get to the point where you tell him no to his Deshaun Watson proposal, and then we don't have a stream of reports that the Falcons won't do it, the Panthers won't do it, the Dolphins won't do it, the Jets won't do it, this team won't do it, that team won't do it. then it looks a lot more like evidence of collusion. That's the reality. The collusion happens. It's impossible to prove it.
So, interesting. I mean, and you kind of just laid out what Watson's agent did on his behalf, and that's the sort of thing that Lamar could use right here. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.